What's up, boys? It's Dread. This is my workshop video. I'm going to review some cool workshop items that I think should be added in the next TF2 update, and yeah, let's get into it. And so the first weapon we have is the Zoya, and I guess this is like a mammoth-based minigun from prehistoric times that's like bigger than Hightower. It's kind of funny, but honestly, at first I thought this gun would kind of be like the Brass Beast, but then I realized there's so many things wrong with the Brass Beast that no gun should be like that. So now I'm more thinking maybe larger bullets and a larger spread so that the bullets hit more, and I'm feeling like projectile penetration might be good with this weapon, along with bullet resistances, but with a downside of spin up and movement speed. And I'm maybe thinking some kind of health modification. Maybe you take one resistance for a different resistance, and kind of just maybe that'll even it out, like maybe plus 25 bullet resistance, while there's a minus 25 fire resistance, because that would sound right for a gun like that's based off of Mammoth, because they would have fur and stuff. So assuming that would sound right, so yeah. The next gun we have is the Revolutionary, which is kind of like based off the AK-47. And this gun actually looks really cool. The guy who modeled this is really good. Although I'm honestly thinking, just because it looks so much like the Tomislav, he's even got the diagram here, I'm honestly thinking maybe like a reskin to the Tomislav, kind of like how the Delocos bar has the fish bar. That's a reskin to it. So that might be cool to have, just because, like, honestly, a reskin to a weapon, we haven't gotten one of those in so long that I honestly think it would just be so really dope to get one of them. Or, you know, it could be its own item with its own stats, which if it was, I would say, like, plus 10. You know, because it's after the AK, I'd say maybe a plus 20 damage increase. But, maybe a larger hit spread. And, thinking maybe a tad bit slower movement, but with the upside, maybe a little bit of resistance. Yeah, maybe not though. Maybe this would have more like maybe this should just be like more of a Tomislav styled gun, but without the silent spin up in that. So yeah, maybe this could be, I'm thinking some kind of like a Tomislav reskin overall. I don't honestly see it being anything else, just because it looks so similar. So I'm not thinking this is necessarily something that they'll add, but I mean, it's honestly one of the best workshop items right now. So if they do add it, I am going to be really hyped to buy this skin for the Tomislav, because I am a big fan of Tomislav, and unless they buff some of the other items Heavy has, or another item comes out that's better, I'm thinking this is going to be a huge profit for Valve if they make a contract with this in it. So yeah, I think a lot of players will come back if this is they start adding like reskins and stuff rather than skins that kind of just like color the item, because honestly you can only do so much with that, and when you have actual reskins of items like this that totally change how the item looks, I think it's really cool. So yeah, I hope to see this gun added to the game. The next weapon is the Lil Buddy, which is designed by the same person, and it honestly has just about as much detail put into it. And it's really cool. It's modeled after the Tomislav, I'm assuming, and as so, I think it could have, I'm thinking it could either be a shotgun, or maybe like the first submachine gun type weapon. You could change the model a little bit for, I don't know, that would seem like it would fit better with the design, and you know, since Heavy's a mobster from the Tomislav set, I think that would be really cool for him to get a submachine gun, just because like we focus Heavy around a minigun, so a submachine gun just kind of seems fitting. But other than that, I'm honestly looking at this model thinking, just because it has Tomislav, I'm thinking faster firing rate. It has a compensator on the end of the barrel, so I'm not entirely sure what he's going for with that. I guess it's for the Tomislav, or the Thompson look, but I would assume that this would be a faster firing shotgun. It's kind of similar to how the Panic Attack was. Maybe less damage, but a tighter, maybe a tighter spread, but with less damage and a little bit of a slower reload time, but a plus clip size. Yeah, that sounds like a decent stat for this gun. Overall though, this is a really cool gun, and I'm thinking the design and just the overall detail in this, it's really nice, and I think this is actually looking better than some of the Valve items that have been implemented into the game, so yeah, I really hope to see this added. It's really cool. Now, the next item I'm looking at is part of the collection that is called Czar Wars, and it's called the Valentina. Now, there's not too much here about this, but it seems like the guy has an actual model for it, and it does look really cool. And I think with a gun like this, considering the barrel of, I want to say, like nitrogen or something on the bottom, depending on what that is supposed to be, I'm thinking we could see like really high rate of fire, but maybe a little less damage. Just because of how this looks with the barrel, I think it could have stats similar to the Tomislav with a silent spin-up time. And I'm thinking we could implement some kind of mini crit system as seen here, just because the I think the damage should be lowered well, not incredibly, but I think it should be lowered a decent bit. The fire rate should be pretty high, the highest of any minigun, I think. Actually the highest of any weapon in general, I think. I think you could decrease clip size. Don't do anything to damage. Decrease clip size, increase firing speed. What could be another downside to even this out? I'm thinking maybe some kind of, I'm not quite sure actually. This is a tough weapon because, I mean, just because of the design features, it doesn't look like it would really have, it doesn't show any visible downsides like some miniguns do. Like with this, I mean, you can think smaller clip size because of the clip. It looks really small in the gun. The nitrogen kind of gives it that sense of a fire fast, or like a very fast firing speed, because it's modeled, it looks like after a minigun from the Clone Wars TV series. So they might be able to even out the damage with it, or something similar. I don't know, but for right now, this is a gun that would need to be worked on heavily before they'd be able to add it into the game, and the model would probably have to be tweaked a little, because I don't even know if, this guy doesn't even show the model very much, but it still looks really cool. So if this gun is able to get reworked and stuff, I think it would make an awesome addition to the game, just because of, like, we don't have too many guns that are space oriented for heavy. In fact, we don't have any, so I mean, this is really cool because I think they could do like Soviet space or something similar to that, because Russians in space. So I think that would be a really cool thing to have. It would actually go along pretty decently well with the Heavy, because he's Russian and the Russian space systems or space program. So you know what? That would be pretty cool. The cosmetics for it, I could care less if they were added or not. They don't look too good. So let's move on to the next item. So next item is called the Arms Racer, and this thing is honestly I think pretty cool. I think it could be, just from how it looks, you know, I'm thinking a reskin to the panic attack automatically. I think if a reskin for the panic attack, or even the reserve shooter maybe, well no, because this is more oriented after it looks like a machine gun, so I'm thinking panic attack reskin right here. So that would be really cool. Yeah, I think honestly this update, if we got a bunch of nice reskins, I think that would draw a bunch of players in rather than adding like war paints and stuff. Reskins is where it's at, just because, I mean, changes the look of the gun without having to work on any stats or anything like that. So honestly, I'd like to see this added. Even if they don't do it as a reskin and they do find some stats for it, that would be really cool. The next gun I'm kind of looking at right now is the Tomahawk. So this gun is honestly really cool, and it looks like the guy even added war paint support for it. So that's really cool for Valve, because they don't have to do as much to it. Now, I'm not entirely sure if this guy has stats or not for it, but he might. So that's pretty cool. But honestly, I think this gun could be added as a slower firing speed, silent spin up, slower firing speed, increased damage. I'm thinking maybe a little bit less move speed. I'm not entirely saying too much less move speed. Maybe a decreased clip size. With a futuristic looking gun with that, all of that could be implemented with a decent, maybe even a health increase, because we don't see too many items that give health increases. So, or a bullet resistance, or a overall full resistance kind of thing. But yeah, overall, I'm thinking reworking this gun and tweaking it to be something that's really cool. I don't think this would work for a reskin at all. I think it deserves to be implemented into the game as a full weapon, and I think that would be really cool. I'm honestly looking forward to if this gets added, because it's really amazing. And it would also kind of work more, because if we did like a space themed update for the like space race kind of thing, this would be really cool, because it would blend in right along with the Valentina and that set, if it was added as a set. So yeah, moving on. Okay, so the last item I'm going to be looking at that is a kind of like secondary is the Cosmic Cuisine. Now another food item, this could, I'm not entirely sure how they would rework this. I'm thinking it could be a reskin for the banana, because if we got a reskin for the banana, I'm not always sure that everyone really loves the look of the banana. I'm sure a lot of people would say it's fine and they don't really care, but if we got a reskin for it, I think that would draw a bunch of people in, kind of like how the fish bar was added. Same thing. Because this would literally just be another food reskin, and I think maybe crafting this would work, or just straight up getting it in the contract. So yeah, anyway, that concludes our items. I'm really favoring on this space oriented update, maybe even adding the asteroid map into the map pool for casual, and maybe a few other space maps. Not entirely sure yet, but I'm leaning on that pretty heavily. So yeah, let's move on to hats. So the first hat I really want to look at is the Manwich, which is honestly kind of funny, just as a normal hat, and I think added as kind of like, just as a gimmick even. This is honestly just hilarious. And although it's intended to be a whole Halloween restricted item, you know, I mean, you can't, I guess you could do that. I think if this update came out around Halloween, you know, that would be kind of fitting. If not for the heavy update though, I mean, we can get this in definitely the next Halloween update, because this is this is just funny. This is an amazing hat, and I think this deserves to be added to the game, like immediately, within the Halloween update, or even, you know what, like even Christmas would be cool, or something like that. But I mean, I really want this hat in the game. It's just so beautiful. So the next hat we have is the Shady Business, which goes along pretty well with the Revolutionary set. which I talked about, I'm honestly really leaning on this set. It's really cool, and it actually has paint styles, so you know, it comes with that beard kind of thing, so that's really cool and funny. But you can dye your beard gold or your hat gold, so I think that's honestly hilarious. And this hat overall is really cool. It kind of seems like there's a lot of these hat styles though. So I don't know. Honestly, I'm kind of leaning on this. I like it. So the last hat we have is the debreather. Now this thing looks dope. And honestly, I want it to be added. I honestly think this could be an all-class kind of item. I mean, it's just so beautiful. Look at this. It's just amazing looking. It fits so well with any class, honestly. And I'm honestly thinking I don't want it to be a Halloween hat at all. I think this is fitting as a non-Halloween hat. This is honestly beautiful. You know, I feel like there's too many Halloween items that are really, they would fit as regular items, but I mean, they're full moon locked, so I mean, that really sucks. But honestly, I think maybe adding this as just like an all-class kind of like new hat, I think it can make a lot of money, and I think it would be a very traded hat, especially with unusual effects. So yeah, this is probably the last item I'm going to talk about. And overall, everything I've stated here is kind of just facts. There's a lot more that's really cool, but I mean, those can be added. We can only add so many items into the game before, I mean, heavy kind of becomes like a little. There's so many items we can add before he just runs out of stats to put on different guns and stuff. So unless we get some really cool funky looking gun, I don't think there's going to be anything else that really necessarily needs to be added. Now of course there are some cooler stuff, but I mean, we've honestly, like in the past, it's been an option and Valve just hasn't added it. So if they're not going to add it, then I can't see them adding it now. So yeah, this is honestly just a really cool item though, and it even works for the demo man right here, taking out his broken eye, his dead eye, and his non-functioning eye. So I mean, that's really cool. Anyway, I'll see y'all later.